How's it going, everybody? My name is Sai, and today we're going to talk about Sordid Pink's self-titled album, Sordid Pink. So Sordid Pink's self-titled album is kind of a pop metal album, little hints of prog here, little bits of heavier influences here and there, but overall it's very, very poppy, kind of fun record, which is not what you expect from the first single, FU. I did hear that first single. You could check out my reaction on one of the links down below. But essentially, it was a bit of a heavy groove-driven track. Had some pop inflections to it, very kind of bouncy tone, very pissed off at relationships kind of motifs. But overall, it had chunk to it. It had a very genty chunk to it, including some pretty impressive demented screams from the vocalist of this group, whose name that I cannot really pronounce very well. Dimash, Alexandra Dimash. I can't pronounce it. It's down there. However, she is a huge standout in this record, so we're going to be coming back to her in a moment. But just overall, talk about the structure of the record. It starts off very strong, very, very strong. It starts off with some excellent songs, some really great range, some interesting quirkiness to the sound, but I feel like towards like the middle to the end of the album, it starts to taper off a little bit, gets a little bit, I'm not gonna say safe, but like less wow, you know what I mean? And I feel like the wow factor is a huge selling point to this record, so losing that about halfway through is a little bit of an but overall, it's a pretty solid record. Let's get into the little details now, though. We start off with the track Killer, which is, again, it's very much like FU. So baby, kill me, and maybe we can have some fun. Where it's got some very jaunty, heavy progression of guitar work, and you see that in other songs throughout. But this is where they get you. That's actually not really how it is. About, I'd say, a third to a half of the album may sound like that, but the rest of the album has a lot of different exploration of pop qualities with it. You've got your kind of softer acoustic ballad. I feel like we're treading similar ground as Sleep Token as far as pop metal influences, but this is a completely different beast, trust me. It sounds different. It plays on the more quirkier sides, a la like Gorillaz. So a lot of like interesting electronic instrumentation. Yeah, we're gonna go with that. Overall, creates a sonic sound that is unlike what you hear in pop music, but at the same time reminiscent of it. So it's got like kind of the same fun, quirky, lighthearted nature, tempered down with the occasional barrage of guitars and odd scream here or there, especially the most standout one being, I would say, on the last track, which ends off with a pretty impressive belt. Odd spot to end this album on, but that is how they do it. Now, speaking of the vocals, we have a singer that I've grown to quite admire a lot. Like I said, I already butchered her name once, we're not doing it again. But she has this sort of clean-ish tone to her while keeping on a rasp. She has a very, very prominent raspy tone that can be heard even in her softer singing. She's got a little bit of a pronounced accent. I'm not sure where they come from, but the accent comes through and kind of makes certain runs and melodies sound interesting, when otherwise they may have been a little bit, just a little bit more average on the pop side. A big standout for me would be the track Livin', where you can see that accent pop out in the chorus, and it overall creates a nice soaring element to it, though. She has a very, very great control of intensity. She can sing really, really soft crooning, and then she can kind of get close to scream-like belting, where when she's singing, her fucking grit takes over and kind of morphs the sound. Like usually when you hear grit take over, it like layers under the sound and puts passion into it. When she puts grit into her sound, it distorts it. It kind of makes it a little twisted, a little evil sounding, a little crazy, demented kind of way. I like that. It's super unique. I don't think I've heard that anywhere else except for work that she's done, which, speaking of work that she's done, her frequent collaborator is David Maximicic. God, I am fucking terrible with names on this one. He's the guitarist of this band, and this is probably his most straightforward work. He's known for doing a lot of crazy, progressive, technical shit, but here it's really dialed back. When the guitars do hit, it is like very standard chord progression and or groove. There's a lot of gent and groove here, and a lot of very like just chords that are meant to like sound momentous and very soaring, like I said, with those choruses. But overall, I'm just shocked at how little they're used here, because like I said, they come in and out pretty frequently. Other tracks have a little bit of a almost 80s sound to them, a little nostalgic to it, a little new wave-ish. They got a little bit of that fun pop. They got a little bit of the somber tone, but I feel like a lot of the times, despite the seriousness of the lyrics, it's all kind of light and airy. Like the album just feels kind of bouncy and fun and fresh, and I like that about it. It's kind of unfortunate when we start getting to the halfway mark. I feel like the experimentation is tampered down a little bit. We start getting more solid songs, but just more kind of a similar sound that we already established with the guitar work, especially when the more heavier tracks come in. The heavier tracks kind of mesh together and sound similar, where the softer tracks are pulling a lot of different sounds. And so it makes for this interesting dichotomy where this album is sort of split in two, and one half of the album is really, really good, and the other half of the album is just, it's pretty good. It's alright, I guess. So it gets a little unfortunate as far as that goes, but overall I think it's pulled out by the really inventive other tracks on this thing. Another highlight to me, like I said, would probably be this song Freak, where it has this like really, really infectious groove to it right off the bat. It does a sound that you do not hear replicated for the rest of the album. It has a completely different tempo, a completely different melody, completely different subject matter. It's just fun. It's a little bit crazy. You just have to hear a lot of it to really get what I'm saying, because for the most part, this record is super kind of out there. It uses a lot of sounds that you wouldn't expect. But at the same time maintains a sound that is very familiar if you've ever listened to like radio rock, especially older radio rock, like mid 2000s kind of vibe we're going for here, or 90s and 80s, of course. But overall, though, that kind of is where this album leaves off for me, which is unfortunate. Like, the production is super lush, but I feel like they do away with that on a lot of the heavier elements, and kind of later in the album they abandon it a little bit, and that's kind of, like I said, it's unfortunate, because overall, super into the songs that really make full use of the less production, full use of the experimentation, full use of the singer's great range, but I feel like there's a lot of tracks that don't really measure up, and overall I think this would just be a better EP than a full album at the end of the day. That being said, I'm sure more people were actually way more disappointed with this thing because of the inherent lack of heaviness, but that's just not the case for me. If anything, I feel like some of the heavier moments are some of the weaker moments. And yeah, overall, that's going to be my thoughts on Sordid Pink's self-titled album. I almost called it Sordid Pink's FU, but that's just one song. Let me know what you guys think down below, if you agree with me, whatever. Also, be sure to follow any of the links that I leave down below. They're going to lead you to their merch. They're going to lead you to the record if you want to pick it up, if you want to listen, all that good stuff, as well as links for me, like if you want to follow my Twitch streams, or you can bring in music for me to listen to, or you want to jump in on my Discord where we talk about music, share memes, talk about new releases, as well as we have a few artists in there who share their own work, so that can be kind of nice to get into. And yeah, that's going to be about it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned on Friday. I will be dropping my reaction/review to Termina's latest album. And thank you guys so much for watching again. I just thank you. I'm just going to say thank you all over again. I don't know how to end videos.